Okay, so today we are going to be reviewing this book, Eragon, by Christopher Paolini. This is a book that I gave three, I believe, 3 stars to. I really should be sure about this. I think I gave 3 stars to this book. You know what? I'm just going to confirm that. Okay, yes, I did end up giving this book 3 stars because it is a fun book. I just feel that there are some things that I really didn't appreciate about it, and that's why I got a lower rating. I'm going to try and move the camera a little bit back there. That's a bit better. Alright, let's go on. So, if you have not seen a review of mine before, basically the way that I do it is I split it up into 2 sections. We begin with a spoiler-free, then we go into spoiler. So, let's start with the spoiler-free side of things as I give you 3 pros and 3 cons about this book. Okay. Starting off with the cons. Okay. The quest. Maybe it's me. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe it's me, maybe it's the authors, maybe it's a combination of both of us just having conflicting interests, but why do so many fantasies have to go on quests that take them through 10 towns or more? Maybe I'm over exaggerating here, but I'm kind of getting sick of the quest trope in fantasies. Let's have a fantasy with magic systems where the characters stay in their hometown, go home each night, and go to bed. Not having the questing trope where the characters are cold, hungry, don't know where the next meal is coming from is really boring me. I don't think that a fantasy necessarily needs to imply we need to leave our hometown and go out and venture somewhere. Fantasy to me is about fantastical beings, fantastical elements, magic systems, great world building, but this does not have to happen while you're gallivanting around miles and miles and traveling for days and months and weeks and years. And that does happen in this book, and so I just did not appreciate that element of this book. My second con, because it is a questing book, there are moments that come off as rather meandering, and that's one of the things that I really don't like about fantasy books that go on quests, is that there are a ton of meandering moments within those quests where if you're at home or you remain in a localized area, you can't be meandering because things have to happen to keep the book moving along. Where if you are questing and basically your days are spent having a nice conversation, finding somewhere to camp, having some food and having a nap, that is meandering, but it's acceptable because you're in a new area. Like, no, just doesn't work for me. So it seems unavoidable with any fantasy that sees its characters travelling great distances to achieve their goal, but it needs to be mentioned as I see this as a downside to fantasy, and this book also. Not taking away from the author's brilliance to write this text at his age, which we will discuss in a moment, just judging this book on its own. Simply put, there are way too many pages taken up by moments where nothing of significance is happening. You may love that, but I prefer a quick 1 week later they arrived at their destination rather than a 200-page journey of how they got there where nothing significant is occurring. My third con about this book is the plot convenience. Oh yes, my friends, there are plot conveniences in this book. One particular moment was so convenient that it was just plain annoying to me. Suffice it to say that that the characters are caught in a jam. Now, I'm mindful that this is spoiler-free, so I won't say what it is. And they don't seem to have any way out of this jam, but then, hey presto, a third character appears and voila, the jam is over. Yeah, that really, because I'm just trying to remember it now. I finished this book actually last week, but I just didn't have time to review it till now. I'm remembering that jam now, and that really annoyed me. These 2 characters, they're caught in a jam. There doesn't seem to be any way out, but they have just enough time to think there doesn't seem to be any way out, and then a third character is there and somehow they're out of the jam. No, that's just way too convenient, so I did not appreciate that. I never liked this idea in any novel. If your character is caught in a jam, they should be the ones to figure out how to get out of it, not some random who just happened to be in the right place at the right time. No. Not a fan of that. Okay, so let's go into my 3 pros for this book. first one, the relationship between the protagonist, Eragon, and his dragon, Saphira. So, yeah, I don't think that that's too much of a spoiler. You can see there's a dragon on the cover, and you can assume that there's going to be someone that's working with the dragon. That's Eragon. Their relationship is a really beautiful relationship. In fact, it's better than any other friendship I've ever read. It's just really well done, and the way that they communicate with each other is really smart of this author, and their bond is just really beautiful to see. So I did really enjoy that. My second pro for this book is the magic. So, though I can't say that the magic system is fully explained, there is magic in this book which is truly appreciated. I've been reading a lot of fantasy this month, and a lot of them either don't have magic, or the magic, like this book, isn't fully explained. But there is magic in this book, and it's explained enough. It's kind of like if this is the line between explaining something enough and then this is the line where you're explaining it too much, it hits the middle line. Yeah, dead on. It just explains it enough. I would have liked to have seen Christopher Paolini. I keep saying Paolini, but it's Paolini. I'd love to have seen Christopher Paolini go even further than that and explain it a little more. The magic is not the main focus of this story. The main focus is the relationship between a boy and his dragon. But it would have been interesting to learn more about the magic systems and its limitations. The third pro for this book is the author writing this book at the age that he did. Now, I did not know this until I finished reading it, and then I looked up one of my favorite booktubers' reviews, and he just happened to mention that the author was 17 years of age when this book was published. So imagine how old he was when he wrote it. That changes things for me dramatically. It does not change the rating of the book because I'm rating the book, not the author. But I think that is a massive pro. If you go into this book thinking a 17-year-old wrote it, you will be surprised because it's much better than what you would expect a 17-year-old write. Now, from what I've heard, this book has received a ton of flack along the way. Some people who have read the entire series, which I'm not going to do, I'm going to leave it at book one. I did love this book, but it's just not the sort of series that has me hooked onto it. But a lot of people are saying that Christopher Paolini, this is the first book he ever wrote. The series is okay. But, as he went on further and further in his life, he got better and better as a writer. But I don't think he's a bad writer. Not at all. I think the story is entertaining, and if you love dragons, you will love this book. Like, I will absolutely say that. It's just, for me, I prefer fantasies that have a magic system in place. While the magic is there, it is not the main focus. And so for me, that's why it's not one of the best books that I've ever read. But there are fantastical elements in this book, and it is a wonderful book. And to be written by a 17-year-old really just blows me away. So now let's go into the spoiler section. If you are going to leave there, completely understand. Let me know what you think when you go about reading it. I post videos every Wednesday and Sunday with reviews in between, and I'll see you again very soon. Happy reading. For the rest of you who are staying behind for the spoiler version, let's get right into it. We're not going to pause, we're just going to go right into it. So, this is the spoiler version of this book, and so basically I'm going to start off talking about the plot of this book, and I'm going to keep it very loosey-goosey as I try to remember what happens, but basically it revolves around this character whose name is Eragon, and Eragon has this, I'm going to call it an egg, although it's more of a stone, but an egg that ends up in his possession, and the egg hatches and out comes the dragon. And he loves this dragon but wants to keep it a secret, and so he ends up doing that, but the dragon grows up and they form a wonderful friendship. I was speaking earlier about the relationship between Saphira, which is what he ended up naming the dragon, and Eragon, and how I love how they communicate. The way they communicate, it reminds me, it's kind of indicative of, if you've ever read the series Animorph, how they had thought speech, how rather than speaking out loud, you can communicate through your mind, and so Eragon communicates through his mind. He thinks what he wants to say, and then Saphira ends up responding through his mind. So I found that really intriguing, but their bond is just so amazing. So throughout the book, we also meet another character that, again, I'm so sorry. It's been a while since I've read it. It's been a week and I've read 2 books since then. But they end up meeting this character who I do not remember his name. Is it Brom? Yes, Brom. They end up meeting Brom, and Brom is this guy who is filled with a ton of knowledge, and Eragon likes to go see him and, you know, get information from him about anything and everything. And so when Saphira was born, Eragon goes to Brom and asks him all these questions about dragons while not alluding to the fact that he has his own dragon. Eventually, Brom ends up putting two and two together, and Eragon, Brom, and Saphira go on this quest. I mean, because there's issues with the king, I believe, and it shows how much this book is staying with me. What's staying with me more is the characters and little things that happen throughout the quest, not the quest itself. But there's a king, and he's evil, and he owns the only other 2 dragons, I believe, in existence, and if he finds out about Saphira, there's going to be trouble. But word spreads that Eragon had an egg, so the king is now after Eragon, so they have to flee, and Brom is now coming with him. Brom teaches Eragon sword-on-sword combat while also teaching him the magic system, which I really did appreciate. So the magic system of this world is a forgotten language, and it is invoked through... what's the word? It's invoked through incantation. You enunciate whatever it is that you want to say, and that is the magic system. The reason I'm making a point of this is because there are other books that I've read where the magic system is not about incantations. So, but this one is. It's not in English, it's in a forgotten language. So there are things that Eragon can do and things that he can't do. There are very clear limitations that are spelled out in this book, although I do feel that Paolini could have gone further. But one example is that if you don't know what you're doing and you say a spell that you could die from it, but not die from what the spell does, but from the energy it takes for this spell to play out. Anytime that you incant a spell, it takes energy from you, and every single spell comes with its own amount of energy that it's going to take from you. So there is a time where Eragon is traveling along and he needs to go into a desert, and he's considering whether or not, how he's going to get water and if he can magically make water appear. He tries to just summon water and it nearly knocks him out. That's how much energy he has to use, and so that doesn't work. And then he ends up summoning water from the ground, finding that there's a little puddle in the ground, and then trying to bring it up through the roots in the ground, and that does seem to work, but again, it's very exhausting. So there is your limitation. Also, it's not easy to know what you can do as far as the magic is concerned, because it's not like you can just take a pen and paper and write down a string of words, aka Charmed, where you can write out a rhyming paragraph and suddenly say a rhyme just in time and it all works out well. Because it is of the forgotten language, you need to know the precise words that you do need to use to make happen what is going to happen. So Brom ends up teaching Eragon some things, and that ends up being beneficial, but the magic is placed into the background. There are things that Eragon does and things that he doesn't do. Some of them are consequential, some of them are not, and there are even moments where he is told off by Brom or even by Saphira, who says, I can't believe you did this, and da-da-da-da. But anyway, and yeah, it's just all round, it was a good book, and eventually they get to where they're going, I suppose. I honestly don't remember the ending because it was that long ago that I read it, but I do believe the journey is going to continue, and because, now I'm remembering, because it looks like the rest of the books are going to continue a quest, I just have no interest in reading the quest. If I can get little small paragraph telling me what happens in each book, and or just if I can just siphon out the sections that deal with the magic system or that deal with Saphira and Eragon, but not the actual quest itself, I would really appreciate that. But anyway, in the meantime, that's not to be. Now, I was going to watch the film Eragon, but I ended up not doing that. I was going to do it, but I ended up not doing it for whatever reason. But I will watch it at some point because I do think it's a good enough book for me to want to watch the film in. But I do recommend this book to anyone who loves dragons. One of my best friend absolutely loves dragons, so I know that she will love this book. I know that she has seen the film, she loves the film, and I am going to be passing on my copy of this book to her, and I'm sure she's going to absolutely love it. Don't go into this book for the magic. Know that it is present, but also know that it is also in the background. It's not the main factor at all. In fact, maybe 1/6 of the book is made up of the magic, and the rest is more focusing around Eragon and his relationship with Saphira and the quest that they go on, because quest, why not? But that is where I'm going to leave it, because I don't think there's a heck of a lot more that I need to say about Eragon. I thought it was a good book. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Yeah, so go ahead and read it. As I say, if you love dragons, I highly recommend it because I think you'll enjoy this book. The relationship that Eragon has with Saphira is really amazing, and so I do appreciate that, but I'm not the biggest lover of dragons. And what kept me going with this book wasn't the fact that there was a dragon in the book, but it was more the relationship that Eragon and Saphira have and the magic system itself. So I won't continue on, but if you love that kind of thing, I certainly recommend you do, because I think it was a really good book. And you know, people can say what they want. There are people out there that are saying this is really not a well done book at all, but I think it was. I've read some horrible books in my time, believe you me, and this is not one of them. And I'm not the kind of booktuber to give a book 3 stars just because I think it's a nice thing to do. I always give honest reviews and I always give honest ratings. And if I'm giving a book 3 stars, it means that at the very least I like that book. So I do recommend this to anyone who likes the things that I have detailed throughout this review. But I will leave that there. Once again, today we were reviewing Eragon by Christopher Paolini. Oh yeah, this is a fantasy. It's a YA fantasy, I believe. I don't think this is an adult book. No, it's not. This is a YA fantasy. And I ended up giving it 3 stars out of 5. And you can check out the full review on my Goodreads, which I always leave in the description below. Alright, I will leave that there and let you guys go. Peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Wednesday and Sunday with reviews in between. Mwah. Thank you so much for watching, and happy reading. Bye.